Do I ever got a story for y'all today? If you ever felt like rooting for the little guy, the underdog, then this is the story. Because in this story, the little guy, whose name was Kurt Crumb, took on two, not one, but two multi-billion with a B dollar companies, because both companies accused him of being a thief and a liar. This is the story. Kurt Crumb worked for Ford Motor Company for over a decade, 11 years to be precise. He was working the graveyard shift, and one evening he felt like his blood sugar level was off. And anybody who has diabetes knows when their blood sugar level is off, and they instantly know that they got to get some sugar in their system. So Kurt did what anybody would do. He went to the break room and started looking for something sweet to eat. He went to the vending machine, and in the vending machine, Kurt decided to go through his selection. He got a grandma's cookie, a ye old grandma's cookie, chocolate chip at that. And he swiped his card after he got his cookie, because I'm assuming that this is on the vending machine. And in the vending machine, it gave him the grandma's cookie, but it did not swipe his card. Well, in his conscience, because, Kurt's a good dude, he said, oh man, well, I got this cookie for free, but it didn't register with my card. So he went to another machine and paid for the cookie. So, he'd be able to eat his cookie, get his blood sugar back on track, and get back to work. Because, after a decade at a company, he was a solid employee, somebody worth having around the company. And he doesn't think nothing of it. Blood sugar level gets back on track. Kurt goes back to work. Next thing you know, a couple of days later, he's at work doing what he always does, his job. And the security comes, taps him on the shoulder. Hey, Kurt. Kurt's like, yeah, come take a walk with us to HR. He goes to HR on a graveyard shift, and they say, hey, Kurt, we got you on surveillance video, stealing. And Kurt's like, what? Stealing? And they're like, that's right. You remember a couple nights ago when you went into the break room and you had yourself one of those ye old good grandma's chocolate chip cookies? And Kurt's like, yeah. They're like, yeah, you didn't pay for it. You stole it. And we have a zero tolerance policy for thieves, and we're going to get rid of you. And Kurt was like, what? I didn't steal nothing. They said, yeah, you did. Now you're lying to us because we got you on video. So you're not just a thief, you're a liar. And this is coming from his employer, Ford Motor Company. That's right. How are you going to fight Ford, who's worth $150 billion, when their security goons come against you and accuse you of stealing a grandma's cookie chocolate chip? Well, Kurt was like, well, dang, man. He was kind of perplexed by it and bewildered, because he thought back. He remembered. He knew exactly what they was talking about. Well, Kurt was like, can I get my computer? Because he brought his computer because he was an electrician for Ford Motor Company. And they said, nah, you can't go get your computer. So armed security escorted Kurt off the premises after they canned him for stealing $1.95 grandma's cookie. And then they brought him out to the where the property line meets, followed him in his car, and made sure, look, if you come back, we're going to get you on trespassing too. And so Kurt gets home, he tells his wife, hey, I just got fired for stealing. She's like, stealing? She's surprised. She knows her husband. He said, yeah. So he did what he thought he could do, and he would go through his bank statements. And when he went through his bank statements, there it was. Same night, same graveyard shift he was working, right there on the itemized line, $1.95 charge. And he's like, well, that has to be it. But he couldn't remember how much the cookie cost. So he got one of his friends who worked at Ford to check on go check on the vending machine and take a picture for him so he could see how much the grandma cookie cost. Sure enough, and here's a screenshot, the grandma's cookie was $1.95. Boom, light bulb switch. He's like, dang, see, I got him. So he sends the screenshot and a picture of his bank statements matching up the screenshot of the vending machine price of the cookie. He said, look, I paid $1.95. And they're like, well, how come we don't have you on footage? That's right. They're surveilling people in the break room at Ford Motor Companies. A lot of these companies are surveilling people nowadays, y'all. The surveillance world that we live in, the big brother state, is alive and well. And it's only growing stronger as they build data centers all across the great lands and put cameras at every single stop sign and red light. They're listening to us when we make these YouTube videos. They listen to everything we do. Well, he gets fired, as I said, And he gets accused of stealing a cookie that's $1.95. But the dude made $200,000 plus a year. This dude made 200 grand a year. And when he went and looked at his bank statements, after he got accused of stealing in the break room, he saw that he was spending over $2,000 annually on the vending machines just to get Diet Cokes while he's at work per year. Dude was spending about 2 G's on vending machines. Come to find out, it wasn't Ford that pulled up the surveillance video of Kurt supposedly stealing the grandma's cookie. It was a company called Aramark. If you don't know who Aramark is, don't be surprised, because I didn't know who Aramark was neither. But Aramark is a $15 billion Philadelphia-based food service company that provides vending machines and food services to big companies like Ford Motor Company and sports venues all throughout the world. So they're a very big company. And obviously they're surveillancing all their vending machines and snack and break areas that they are in charge of. And they the ones who got the surveillance notification that someone didn't pay for. Listen, y'all, this food company, Aramark, is worth $15 billion. So you got a company that has a net worth of $15 billion, Aramark, and 150 billion plus Ford Motor Company coming at you, accusing you of theft. So Ford Motor Company, after they wrongfully accused Kurt Crum of theft and lying, because he told them he didn't do it, and they called the dude a liar to his face and had the audacity to escort him off the premises. Let me tell y'all something, man. These companies that we work for do not care about you in all likelihood. Is there a small percentage that the company you work for actually gives a crap about you? There's a small percentage, but the chance that the company you work for not caring for you is much larger than the reality that they might care for you. These companies do not care about their employees. They care about the bottom line. They'll tell you whatever you want to hear, and they flip and flop left and right. They care about the bottom line, which is the almighty dollar. They're in it for a profit. Very few companies are willing to do what's right and lose everything for the purpose of just being of good moral standings. They don't care about moral standings and morality and character. These companies care about the bottom line. Kurt worked for this company for a decade. Imagine that, training somebody for a decade. They've been on your staff for a decade. They know the company in and out. They know what they're doing. They're trustworthy. And you accuse them and fire them for $1.95. All right. Kurt sends this picture in, screenshot of his bank statements. Ford Motor Company sees it and says, look, we're not going to be able to take this at face value. You're going to have to go get this certified and stamped and signed as proof that this is real evidence. And Kurt's like, come on, man. After what they did, they done seen all this information. They went back and got with Aramark, and they pointing the finger at Aramark. And now Aramark is pointing the finger at Ford Motor Company. Of course, neither one of the billion-dollar companies want to take responsibility. So they pointing the finger at each other. That points at poor Kurt, the average Joe, who's just doing his job and is actually a good employee, the type of employee you want. So they fired dude. Dude sends the certified copy to Ford. They call him up and say, hey, Kurt, you want your job back? No apology. No, I'm sorry. No, we dropped the ball on this one. No, we got to fix our policy on zero tolerance for stealing out the break room, when in fact that you didn't steal out the break room. Hey, bro, you want your job back? Kurt's like, nah, I don't want my job back. He denied the opportunity to take his job back. They're like, look, we want to make the right wrong. And so Ford Motor Company tells him, look, hey, we realize we owe you $32,000 in back pay. And we want to make that right by you. So we're going to send you a check for $32,000. Once they realized that they fired this dude on bad low, because Aramark gave them bad information. And when Aramark went and looked at their bank statements and their other surveillance, what kind of security team do you got if they don't take the time at Ford Motor Company and Aramark, if they don't take the time to investigate thoroughly before they fire a man over $1.95? This is pathetic, y'all. This one got me worked up, man, because we all spend so much of our life working for these companies, and these companies do not, they basically spit in our faces. And when we die, we're replaceable. The day they fire us, we're replaceable. They do not care about us. It's a cold world, blood, no mercy. Remember that on the movie Colors? I'll never forget that statement. I always thought it was a cool quote. But there really is no mercy. And that's how they treat us, y'all, man. They fired this dude, man. It's just really pathetic, man. After over a decade of service to the company, he thought he was going to retire with Ford. This was in Kentucky. So he got a job closer to his house. So he didn't have to drive as far. It actually, he was making like $48 an hour. And he got hired onto another company who was paying him $52 an hour. Dude was putting in 60 plus hours of work per week at Ford Motor Company. And they just canned him like it meant absolutely nothing on some bad low, on a false charge. And as an ex-con, I know what it's like to be guilty. And I also know what it's like to be accused of things that I'm not guilty for. Since I've been released from prison, I worked for a company that was low down, crooked, and dirty. And I ain't going to say no names. And I did some temporary work for them. I drove for them. And it was a parish job. And I got fired on a lie. Straight up lie. The dude lied. And I went in and told the truth, but I was just an ex-con who was just a little bit unhinged because of my extreme personality. So they got rid of me. You think they cared about that? And I knew I was telling the truth. Everybody, I knew the dude who was lying on me knew I was telling the truth. But his character was poo, pure trash. But the company treated him like he was telling the truth. He was lying to him. I'm like, that's so much, man. So often in life, the people who are stabbing us in our backs and lying to our faces, we trust them like they're telling the truth. We're getting played like some fools. And I'm like, well, ain't nothing I could do about it. You know, I was mad. I was pissed off, y'all, about that situation. So imagine how Kurt felt, because I didn't have 10 years of experience with this company. I only had like 6 months. And he got fired for this? What do you think? Would you get an attorney? I would get an attorney. And I would file a lawsuit against Ford Motor Company and Aramark. I'd file suit against both of them because they ran this dude's name through the mud by accusing him of theft and lying. And in reality, when he got his check, y'all, Ford Motor Company said they owed him $32,000 in back pay. He got his check for $28,000. So ain't that something? The company who accused Kurt Crum of lying and stealing actually lied and steal to him. They said they were going to make it right by paying him the full $32,000. And instead they gave him $28,000. They shortchanged him. They felt like they got shortchanged for $1.95. So they jacked this dude out of thousands. And what's he going to do? He should get a lawyer and sue them for defamation of character. What say you? Drop in the comments. Do you work for a company? Be careful, y'all, because these companies watch everything we do. That's why the best company you can work for is yourself. It doesn't matter what it is. When you work for yourself, you can trust yourself. Hopefully. Man, give me a like and subscribe to the Pen and Shank, the most unusual and unique crime and prison channel experience on YouTube, where we talk about stolen cookies, Ford Motor Companies, Aramark. Let's get it.